excuse me while I whip this out.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
Straight across Lake Washington from the VMAC as the Hawk flies in the We the Fans Internet Media Network studio, commonly and secretly called the Bunker, as perpetuated by the Gas Man, on a Seahawks Blue Friday night, which, according to 4th and 20 Club, is now Blue and Green Friday, to kick off the process of whipping the mythical, magical, and undeniable spirit of the 12th man into his play-altering state for the Seattle Seahawks on game day. This is the Hawk and Roll Hysteria podcast, and we're just gonna go blue. I'm the DJ and the point man of the Fans Revolution, with longtime internet sports show host, The Insider, Steve Silver, and at the helm of the Hawk and Roll Hysteria podcast on video, navigating the choppy waters of the World Wide Web after a decade on sports radio, the former pilot of Chopper 950, the Captain, Brian Apker. Let's rock and roll, you guys.
Fellas,
back in the nest
after a week off to get our wits about us. We come back to another defeat at the hands this time of the undefeated Cincinnati Bengals, a game that was on the road, a game in which 3/4 of football was played that the Seahawks were the dominant team.
Yep.
And then the final fourth quarter where the Seahawks have kind of made their bones as being clutch, especially Russell Wilson. The wheels fell off the cart. So as we kind of talk about this loss, we got a lot to talk about. We'll talk about Carolina comes to town undefeated. We've got the Derek Coleman situation. Marshawn Lynch is back. A lot of things to talk about. But let's talk about this loss. Are you worried? Are you worried that the Hawks aren't the same old Hawks? Or do you look at this and go, God, this is the third game on the road where they fought to the bitter end. They took this thing to overtime. They went against a team that's actually very good in the AFC and just couldn't muster the victory. They'll be fine. Or you go, hey, this team just simply doesn't have it. The offensive line's terrible. Guys like Richard Sherman maybe aren't as hungry as they once were after getting paid, getting married, having a baby. Russell Wilson and the whole Sierra deal, he's not performing to the level of clutchness that he has before. Steve, we'll start with you. Where do you sit right now as far as your mindset about this team?
Well, first of all, I need to apologize because this is the Cincinnati game. This was on me. Okay, we didn't have the show last week because of some work conflicts, and because we didn't meet here. The mojo was the collapse, the fourth quarter collapse. That's on me. So I'm just going to eat it. Right. We're just going to move on. But to answer your question, I am a little concerned. It's not for the usual reasons. I'm not concerned necessarily so much for the offensive line, although. As bad as sometimes you can look at that in context, we did see Drew Nowak improve over the last 2 weeks. So you got the left tackle and you got the center now. Maybe a little continuity with right guard, right tackle. Maybe I'm reaching on that side, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm worried that Russell Wilson, might not be Russell Wilson. His bread and butter, he can win. He can close out games.
Yeah, right.
St. Louis game, no dice. Green Bay game, big time TV game, no dice. Played down to the level of the Detroit Lions last week, a couple weeks ago, and then of course last week couldn't figure out a way to close it out. 17-point fourth quarter lead, Commando. No excuses. You have that type of lead, that game is over. The Seahawks never lose that game, and they figured out a way to lose that game. Had possessions in the fourth quarter where they could just close it out. Couldn't figure out a way. Had 2 possessions in overtime. Couldn't figure out a way to even muster a first down for Christ's sake. Right. So you know what?
Just get one. Is over.
Exactly. And so you know what? If there's any concern, it's with number 3. I know that we talked pre about whether or not Richard Sherman might be pressing or may not be as hungry. But to me, I think this rests all on the shoulders of number 3. I just, for whatever reason, man, he's lacking the killer instinct.
Yeah, you make a lot of excellent points there, Insider Steve, as far as going back to your question, Captain, as far as being concerned, nervous, or anything like that. I'm not just yet, quite frankly.
Okay.
This is a team that we saw last year go 3-3, and then everyone counted them out. and we saw what they did, went back to the Super Bowl. I'm not nervous yet. I'm not going to get, too up or down about this team. As a matter of fact, the game we saw last week, and everything you said is just dead on. But the season that we're kind of experiencing with the Seattle Seahawks is exactly why when they won the Super Bowl, I said to as many people that will listen, Seahawks fans and friends of mine, I don't care if they go 0-16 the next year. I'm living off this Super Bowl.
Right. That's how we felt at the time. Right. Oh, how times changed, though.
Well, no doubt about that. No, I'm with you. Because now they went back-to-back and whatnot. My point being is that, man, as we see week to week, it's tough to win in the NFL. As we see once you get to the Super Bowl, the next season, it's tougher to get back. And now we're seeing and experiencing and close to renaming Rock and Roll Hysteria, Rock and Roll Delirium, how tough it is, in this season that you've gone back to back and everything that you just pointed out of the things that we knew were inevitable to happen to this team. Guys getting paid. Like you said, the quarterback getting a divorce, having a big-time girlfriend, and all these different types of things. Richard Sherman.
Not having a left cornerback. Not Kerry Williams is just absolutely garbage. Mind-boggling garbage. You saw it. I mean, having one side of the field in your secondary covered with Richard Sherman and then having a gaping hole on the left side. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's just compounding.
Well, so I'm not nervous yet.
Okay. I am a little nervous because the thing that I think that the Seahawks have lost, that they had the edge on everybody with, is being super hungry individuals. And
I'll give you that.
I think guys like Cam and Earl are still hungry. I think I see it in their play and the way they act on the field. But I look at Richard Sherman, who used to walk around and chirp and swing his arms and be animated in between plays. That's kind of gone by the wayside. And maybe he's maturing, some would say, but the fact is he got paid, had a kid, got married, the whole bit. Mm-hmm. That'll change a guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's proven that he's one of the best corners because he's still respected like one. But at the same time, we've seen him take hits on the field as far as getting beat deep, getting beat on short routes, not in guys' faces, something that Commando, you didn't like early on, but it worked for him, so you go with it. Mm-hmm. So I see that. I see Russell Wilson, and Steve, you pointed out that he hasn't been clutch, and that's one of the things I absolutely love about Russell is his ability to win and be clutch, and it hasn't come through for whatever reason. The offensive line is terrible, so that's the thing you got to keep seeing improvement with. But if you're hungry as a team, you can compensate for that.
Right.
These guys are just hungry enough to be in it. Just hungry enough to be keeping up with these teams on the road in tough games. Mm-hmm. In the past, they've been hungry enough to get these victories, to come out on top, to get the job done, to be finishers. So that's what's concerning to me. Is it something that we could see change? Absolutely. Guys could come around and, we could see Richard Sherman getting in guys' faces and grabbing their face mask and throwing them around a little bit and talking smack. But until we see that, this isn't a championship mentality team. And Steve, we talked about it on the ride here, and Commando, something I want to get your thoughts on. In all the interviews for at least the past 2 seasons, every time a player was interviewed, they were asked about the upcoming game. Well, it's another championship opportunity. It's a championship opportunity. Haven't heard that at all this year. Mm-hmm. Nobody's talking about the championship opportunities, and maybe they've just forgot about it. I don't think it's something that Pete Carroll has discarded. I just think that it's not as instilled in them as it once was. So those are my concerns. I think athletically, physically, and talent-wise, this team has, outside of the offensive line, has everybody they need to get it done. Their special teams has improved on last year with Tyler Lockett. We know that. We know Hauschka and the punter are good. They're fine. So those aren't issues. I think it comes down, you said execution. I think execution has to do with being hungry.
It's kind of funny that you brought that up, and it's kind of funny because this week ESPN released a 30 for 30. I don't know if you guys saw this. This was the Trojan War, chronologically the Pete Carroll regime at USC. And it's funny that you brought that up, those interviews, because the same thing was being said from Matt Leinart, Lendell White, Reggie Bush, and all those boys back in the mid-2000s down at USC, attacking every single game like it was a championship game. It was a championship philosophy, and every single interview they did, they always used the word championship because every single week they looked at it as a championship game. And we heard that through the first 5 years of the Pete Carroll regime here in Seattle, and I get back to this because I keep hearing so much negativity about because this team has a fourth quarter collapse because Darrell Bevell this or Russell Wilson that. It gets down to execution. As far as I'm concerned, it gets down to X's and O's. And you like to talk about last year. I got to be honest with you. I don't give a damn about last year. Last year has no bearing on how this team is playing currently right now. And I'm sorry, I get a little animated when you have a 17-point fourth quarter lead and you let a team led by Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, for Christ's sake.
Hey, Andy Dalton's a good regular season quarterback. He's like Dave Craig. He'll have 8 games that are amazing. He'll have 8 games that are mediocre.
I don't want to disrespect Andy Dalton because the dude's from Katy, Texas, and I got a love for all those quarterbacks from down from Texas way. The thing about it is you're the Seattle Seahawks. You have that swagger. You are the 2-time defending NFC Championship, a Super Bowl champion. These are your games that you never let slip away, and you let it go because you couldn't execute. You couldn't figure out a way to execute the smallest things late in the fourth quarter and overtime to put something away. And that was the one thing that I take from, if the only thing that I take away from the last 2 years, the last 3 years, is this team executed at such a high level. And to your point, you're right. You have to have that mentality where it doesn't matter if you go 3 and out, because you know for a fact that at least one play you're going to be able to execute. And it doesn't matter if it is the most undisguised, most recognizable play. If it's that power O, if you're running with Thomas Rawls on a 3rd and 1, there is supreme confidence in Pete Carroll that Rawls will pick up that first down. Period, point blank. Period, point blank. It comes down to execution, and they're not doing it now. That's the difference between where they're at. They should be 4-1, 4-1, 3-2. That's the difference between.
Could be 1-4.
Could be 1-4. The difference in record is so close. Their defense has kept them in every single ball game to this point, and the difference in record is because you're not executing at that high level. Maybe it is the swagger. Maybe it's not having the clutch gene that Russell Wilson used to have and he's not having here. Maybe that's it. I don't know. They're not executing at such a high level.
Well, I guess
and that's what gets me.
Let me jump in right quick on the last year deal, man. I don't give a damn about last year either. I only reference last year as a point of reference that we saw a team that was 3-3. It's still the same. It's the nucleus of that team. And so we know that this game is as much mental as it is physical. And so to that end, in answer to your question about being nervous, I'm referencing that from the standpoint of I still think that this team has that type of ability
I do
that
too.
they
Yeah.
exhibited
I do too.
last year to look in the mirror, man up, gut check, whatever you want to call it, and go, look, let's go out and play some football. And then, I'm away from them to prove me wrong this year, but from last year, they showed that they have that ability. They showed it the year before that. So,
and the question I would ask is, does anything about this team right now feel special to either one of you guys?
that's a great question.
I mean, after coming off a 17-point fourth quarter loss, my inclination is to say no. But these guys are bad boys, man. These guys are rough riders. There's nothing about these guys that suggests that they're going to go on some extended losing streak. I just think right now they just exactly what you said. They have to look at themselves in the mirror and it's gut check time. I mean, every team in this league is coming after them hard.
Yeah.
And you know what? These guys are rough riders. These guys are bad boys. They're dirtbags.
Everybody's coming after the Patriots hard too. Yeah. What are the Patriots doing? They're just winning football games. So listen, I'm with you. I'm not out of my mind worried. I
know exactly.
I want to see hunger and something special start to come out. I want to get that feeling back that I've had over the last couple seasons. The one cool thing about this game is that Thomas Rawls went off. 23 carries, 169 yards, and a touchdown.